today we've got a new project. We're going to be fixing this F750 Super Duty from Ford. It's got some transmission issues, and then it has a weird engine sound as well. Though I think that might just be from the transmission failing, maybe a bearing or something. We can see that it's nothing like out on the ordinary. From the outside, everything looks normal. But it might have just been overloaded at some point. And so either we lost some kind of gears, or maybe bearings went, or some sensors just clogged and it's not giving the correct readings, which results in the transmission not shifting correctly. So we can see it's a dump body and it's just been overloaded at some point. So the first thing I think we're gonna do is we're gonna remove a sensor that's on the side of the transmission here. It's might be inside the pan from the bottom, so we may have to drain the fluids and then open the pan from the bottom and then see if there's any metal wear or if the oil is just messed up. That way we'll know if there's any mechanical damage in the transmission, or if that sensor is just what's causing the issue. So the truck basically is inoperable. It moves a little bit. At sometimes the transmission will engage, and then it'll immediately disengage and you will just get an error, and then the truck just doesn't move at all anymore. Like, it goes into neutral. So it's either a sensor issue or something mechanical is broken, and then it's just shifting out of gears. Erratic shifting as well, and like a kind of a slight knocking sound, as if a shaft is loose or a bearing is loose and it's knocking inside. So that also needs to be addressed. So hopefully dropping the pan will give us a much clearer picture of what's going on. If that doesn't work, we may have to drop the entire transmission, remove the drive shaft, and then separate the transmission from the engine itself, which will require a ton of work. So I will try to document as much as I can, and I'll try to bring you guys along with the process. If this does not work, we may have to just take either the truck, the whole thing, or maybe the transmission once we get it out to a shop and have them repair it if there's extensive damage. But let's see what we can do for now. I'm going to drop the pan and inspect the transmission, and then I'll show you guys what's up. So we're under the truck here. We can see that I've drained all the oil out from the drain plug from the transmission, and then we have a bunch of these little screws or bolts all around that we need to remove so the pan can drop and we can pull it out that way, so we have a view of the inside. The transmission fluid looks extremely dark. Usually it's a bright red color, but from the looks of it, this just might have burned out or something. And it's just a really dark color, almost like a black color, you can see. And I believe, I don't know if they changed it, they might have changed both the oils at the same time, but it says 29 April, so it's been about a year. And it's been sitting for a while as well, so that is a little abnormal, I think. But we're basically going to pull out the pan now, and then we'll inspect the inside, see if we can find anything. If not, we might have to drop the entire transmission, and that will require us to drop these exhaust pipes and then this bracing here. So let's go ahead and remove all these bolts and see the inside. And then we got the pan out and we realized there's a lot of metal shards in there, like a lot of mini little metal pieces, and so we couldn't really see much. But after taking the pan off and then putting it back in, we decided that we should drop the transmission. And so to drop the transmission, you just have a couple of these lines here, which I believe are the radiator lines for the transmission fluid, transmission oil, and then we have one more line, the black one up there, which is for the dipstick, or where you pour the oil in, the new oil. So they just got bolts, and then they're held in with O-rings, as you can see. So that one has O-rings, and then these two have O-rings, and all we need to do is just pry them out, and they come out after you remove the bolts. And then there's this wire harness that also just has brackets bolted in, as well as the rest of the stuff up here that just has plastic clips. So all of that needs to be removed. We have the wire for the sensor on this side, if you can see that right here. So we just twist that and we pull that out, and then we have the actual gear selector here, which just needs to be pried off, and then the bracket that holds it in, which just has that bolt right there. So I just put the bolt back in after removing it, and that's basically everything that's connected to it as far as I can see. The next step is to remove the U-bolt or the U-joint back here. We need to chalk off the wheels and make sure the truck isn't going to move once we disconnect that. And then there's some C-clips or U-clips, whatever they're called, on the U-joint as well that we need to pull off. So let me go ahead and pull that off. After that drive shaft is removed, the next step is to remove all the bolts that connect the transmission to the engine itself. And then before we actually do that, we're gonna set up the jack down here, the tranny jack, and strap it all in, so the transmission isn't gonna go anywhere after it's unbolted. And then we also have to remove this cross membrane here that kind of supports the transmission after we jack it up. So let's go ahead and do all that. I'm gonna bring you guys back. It is a little bit of a tedious process, and it's very hard to record everything, so hopefully that made sense. We also got the exhaust manifold, or the connection to the manifold, off of both sides. So 2 bolts on this side and then 2 bolts on the other side. They are also very hard to get to, so just keep that in mind. They're very tight as well. We had to put some WD-40 to get them loose. So that's that. Everything's out of the way. We're ready to drop the transmission, so let's go ahead and set everything up so we can drop it. The entire stand has been set up. The jack has been set up. I've got the transmission tied and it is ready to be removed. I've got it chained up to the jack here. This is a Harbor Freight jack, a 2,000 pound capacity. So hopefully it's not going to give us an issue in terms of load on the jack. But it's set up and ready to go, so I'm going to head start unbolting everything and try to get it out. Maybe I'm going to end up removing this cross member either from here or just from here. So we'll see how that goes. Finally got the transmission out. I did not have the starter removed because I couldn't get to that 3rd bolt, so I assumed that I could just pull it off and then pull the starter off afterwards, but that's not the case. The flex ring that you see, the metal ring all around this guy right here, it is going through those bolts and connecting to the transmission, and that's behind the torque converter and all that stuff. So we have to remove those bolts and remove the starter, which is right down here, you can see. So 3 bolts. That's basically it. After you get all the, I think it's 8 bolts all around, 2 on the top, 3 on this side, and then another 3 on this side, or 2 on this side. So that's basically everything holding the transmission into place. The U-joint back here, or the cross joint, I didn't end up using the puller. It didn't really do me any good. I did remove one of the rings on one of the sides, so you can see right here, from this side, and it didn't do me any good. I just ended up removing the brackets that are holding the entire union or U-joint in place against the transmission. So I'll show you that in a second here. So I just moved the exhaust out of the way, and I moved the drive shaft out of the way as well. So I didn't really take all that out. I just made enough room so I could get the transmission out. I did have to remove that cross member here. Without removing that, I was unable to get the transmission down straight, I guess. It would have been coming down at an angle, like that angle basically, and I didn't want to risk the transmission sliding off the jack, because the chain on the Harbor Freight jack isn't really all that well. The mechanism's a little bit weird, But basically we need to pull it far back enough to where the entire shaft comes out of the torque converter there, which is about like 8 to 10 inches, I would say. And without pulling it all the way out, you can't drop it, otherwise you could risk bending the shaft. So we had to remove the cross member, pull it all the way back. It was super easy to do once that starter came out, otherwise it was fighting with us. And that's basically everything on the engine side, and then the drive shaft side. But let me show you the transmission here. The first thing I noticed is there was this metal piece here. It is a cast piece. I don't know where it's from. I have been unable to locate any bent or broken pieces, and it was in this bell housing, so I don't know if it made its way out of the bearings here and then came out, but it looks like it's a part of the housing of the transmission maybe, or somewhere behind that torque converter where I can't see it. But I tried to examine the whole thing and I couldn't see it. So that's that. I'm gonna see if we can locate this while we take this transmission apart. But the next thing I noticed is that this shaft here does have play in it. Now I don't know if it's supposed to. Usually it's supposed to have a nice and tight fit, due to the bearings and bushings that are in there. Like we could see the second part here doesn't budge at all, but this guy has play in it, so we need to open it up and see what's inside and what's causing that play. So that's the bell housing side, or the engine side, and then the other side on the U-joint, it's just, you can see I kept the entire thing on it, so I just have to remove the bolts here, and then after that we would be able to remove the rest of the housing on this side. But that's basically everything for the transmission. We're going to try to see if I can get video footage of me taking it apart and seeing what's inside, what the damage is, or if I just end up taking it apart on my own, and then I'll show you guys what the damage is internally. But that's basically it for this part of it. We've pulled the transmission off. Now all we need to do is start taking the internals out and examining everything to see what is causing the transmission issues and what's causing the slippage and giving an error, and then causing the truck to basically go into neutral. And so no matter how much you race the engine, the transmission does not engage. And then you just get a wrench symbol on the dashboard. It's also not reading any codes. I don't have a super fancy truck computer, or truck reader, code reader, but with the little OBD2 reader I have, it's not giving any code. Alright, so as we can see, I've got the entire transmission torn down and everything washed. You can see right here, all the parts have been taken out, washed, and kind of placed into a order to put it back together. There's 5 of these clutch packs. I think the 6th one I didn't take apart very much. It's still inside the transmission. It does not seem like it needs to be taken apart. I washed everything in diesel here, so you can see it was a bright green diesel color, bright yellow green, and you can see those ripples in there, which are metal shavings. Basically, there's a ton of fine metal shavings inside, as well as at the bottom. There was just tons and tons of shavings inside all of these parts, and so it's a good thing we did tear this apart. I didn't find an issue in the transmission itself, but if we hadn't, it would have developed an issue over time. But we did locate the issue in the truck, so let me go show you that real quick. So we can see the rest of the transmission here. I haven't taken apart the output shaft. I believe the 6th clutch pack is in there, but I didn't take it out. I'm just gonna try to wash it as is. But you can see everything's pretty much torn out. I still need to clean this up. I've just kind of sprayed it with diesel just to let it soak a little, and to let all the little metal shards collect a little bit. But the problem, one, all the wear and stuff came out of this guy, the torque converter, all the metal shavings you can see inside. There's still a lot in the torque converter itself, so this guy will need to be replaced. And the culprit, the flex plate here is actually bent as well, and it's been touching and rubbing against something, so we'll need to replace that. We're gonna get a new flex plate, a new torque converter, and then this guy, the flywheel, it's broken. So the one piece we found when we originally took out the transmission, in the bell housing, that little metal piece was from this corner here, and then when I actually took out the torque converter, this other piece was already cracked and ready to fall out. So the reason I think this happened was because the bolts, or the nuts that hold the torque converter onto this flywheel, they were not fully tight. 2 of them were tightened down all the way, and 2 of them were very, very loose. Although these nuts, you can see when you take them out, they just chew up both the bolt on the torque converter as well as this nut. So I don't think they loosened up. They were very tight on there. They were just not fully, I guess the threads weren't used up. So that is probably what caused the rattling sound, as well as the torque converter to chew itself up, and the flywheel to break right there, because this was one of the tightened screws, this was one of the tightened bolts, I think, and then this one and this one were loose. You can see from the torque converter moving back and forth, it's created indents. Same thing here, and it flexed enough to where it broke the flywheel right there. So that's my assumption of what happened. And just when this broke, they stopped driving the truck, although the truck got a ton of wear or metal shavings into the transmission already by the time they stopped. But hopefully we were able to save the transmission by doing this. I didn't see any major wear and tear in the transmission itself, so hopefully we just put it all back together after washing it, and it will be fine. And then we'll get a new torque converter, new flex plate, and a new flywheel. I can show you the underside, or the belly of the beast. There's the engine right there, and that's where the output power is. Very, very small little bolts are holding this entire engine to the transmission. which are probably enough, but that's surprising. I've never really seen this angle of a truck before. So this is one of our first projects that's this intensive, and it seems like it's going successful so far. We've located the issue. Hopefully this, replacing these parts will solve the problem. But we could see how much metal shavings we're getting out of here. A lot of metal shavings. So 3 new parts, maybe $800 to $1,000 in parts, maybe more. But hopefully the truck will be back up and running in a day or two once we get all those parts. Maybe if they have them in stock, if we're lucky enough, we might just be able to put it back together tomorrow. And if not, we might have to wait a few days. But this is our issue. We were hearing rattling sounds as well as knocking sounds. So the knocking was most likely from the torque converter, knocking against the flywheel from time to time, and it really just sounded like a bell ringing. I was able to move the torque converter against a flywheel and I could replicate that sound. So that was that. Hopefully that will convert or transfer the power from the engine a little bit better to the transmission, which will get rid of all the fault codes and all the issues. And hopefully we'll just be able to put this back together and back on the truck. So that's that. I will be back. I will bring you guys back when I've got the transmission all put together. I will have to watch my own footage for this because it was an intensive teardown, and there's a ton of parts, like I showed you, that need to be put in very precisely, and hopefully nothing's going to go wrong. So we got everything put back together, everything is sealed and installed, all the clutches were replaced, all the frictions and steels, so all the clutch packs inside out were all replaced, all 5 of them. We've also replaced the seal on the output shaft here that goes into the torque converter. We've also replaced the O-ring that seals the pump housing here to the transmission casing itself. And we also ended up replacing the filter, which was completely filled with metal shavings and whatnot. So we replaced this guy, and we replaced one of the RPM sensors, which got kind of damaged. So this guy, but underneath the valve body here. So it got smashed a little bit, and we didn't want to take the risk to let it run on its own. So you can kind of see the plastic bit here is a little smashed. So this groove here, so we just replaced it, so we don't have to open everything up again. So we can see all the old parts. We got an O-ring, we got a little rubber piece that broke during the removal process, and then we've got some seals, or basically this one seal piece from the valve body to the internals of the transmission housing. And then there's the old seal. It wasn't really all that bad, but we ended up placing it just because it's a few dollars more, I guess. We did end up breaking one of the bolts that close the entire housing for the transmission, and I ended up welding a nut to it to remove it, and so we got a new one of those, and that's basically everything that we replaced. We've got the pan at the bottom, it's all cleaned up, the magnet's all cleaned up, and it's ready to go. We're not going to be replacing the seal either because it's in good shape. If it leaks, we could probably, you know, remove the fluid and reseal it with a new one later as well. So everything was cleaned up, the entire valve body was removed, disassembled and cleaned, and we tried to remove pretty much 99% of metal shavings from inside. We washed the entire casing as well, and it's all ready to be put back onto the truck. We're gonna seal up this bottom here now, and we also got the new torque converter as well, so we're gonna install that. We might try to put fluid in the torque converter first, and then we'll install it, and hopefully it'll all be good, and then we'll mount it to the truck here shortly. So I'll also show as much as of that as I can. So yeah, that's basically the rebuild of the transmission part completed. Now it's just reassembling it back onto the truck. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll hopefully see the outcome soon. Alright, so the truck is running now. We've got everything installed. I've got the transmission fluid filled right there. I put about 2 quarts almost into the torque converter. It did have a little bit of oil remnants in there, so I wasn't 100% if the factory filled it or not. So I ended up putting 2 more quarts in there, and it drank it like nothing. So I put those 2 quarts in there, and then I put another 15 into the transmission fill port, into the testing right there too. So we've got 15 and 2, 17, almost 18 quarts of oil inside. The specs ask for 17.4 quarts, so we got more than enough oil in there. It says do not add on that checking stick as well, the fluid stick. We can hear no more knocking. There used to be a knocking that came from underneath the cab. So the engine's running smooth. We have no more knocking, no shuddering, no vibrating. So idling, the truck is, it sounds like the truck is good. We can hear underneath, and we can see that everything is back installed and good to go. You can see a little bit of smoking back there, and that's because I sprayed it down, or I flushed the cooler for the transmission oil with diesel to get all the remnants of the metal shards out, and that's why it's smoking. But other than that, everything's all installed. I've got all the connections made. I've got the shift knob from the top of the vehicle, from the cab, connected as well. We've got the main connection for the wiring for the valve body. Other than that, you can see it's like very clean, nice and clean, well installed, ready to go. The only thing left to do is to move the truck and test if it all works. Hopefully we don't run into any issues, and that's basically it for this one. So let me show you the moving truck, hopefully. So let's actually show you the old torque converter as well. We can see it's got metal shards in there once more, and this was basically the culprit for the knocking sound. I don't know why it started deteriorating on the inside and started coming apart, but that's where the source of the metal shavings was from. And I'm also not sure why the oil burned out. I don't know if people overloaded the thing and it was just burning the clutches and burning the oil that way by heating up. But it very well could be. That's why I ended up replacing all the clutches. I know some of the clutch packs were good, like forward, and I think reverse was good. I think underdrive was good as well. Overdrive was good. I mean, 3 out of the 5 were in pretty decent shape, but I ended up replacing all 5 clutch packs just in case, just because we were in there. That costs another, I think it was like about $1,200, $1,300. But you know, well worth the money since I had everything down. So that's basically it for that. Let's go inside the cab and see if there's any wrench icon. Not that I can see at the moment. It does say oil change required. It was changed about a year ago, and I think it's been sitting for about half or 3/4 of the year since the transmission went bad. But we'll change the engine oil afterwards. I'm just gonna test if everything works, the truck runs. I don't get a error code here. There was a severe vibration in the truck as well from the knocking torque converter, and I don't quite feel that anymore in the cab. There's no more wrench icon. After a little bit, the wrench icon would appear and basically would slip. No more movement from the truck. So I'm gonna get a few things cleaned up around the vehicle so we can start it moving, or get space for it to move, and we'll test if it works or not. So I'll be right back.